The laughter didn't stop when the chalk hit the floor. It echoed in the lecture hall, sharp and careless, bouncing off stone walls and young ambition, and in the middle of it all stood a man with a mop in his hands and the weight of the world on his shoulders. No one knew yet that this was the moment everything would change. No one knew that this would become the story they would tell their children. The day a forgotten man rewrote his destiny with a single line of chalk. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and hidden potential, take a second now to like this video, comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to this channel, because this story is for all of us who were once overlooked. Every morning before the city woke, Marcus Reed was already on his feet. At 42, his body carried the memory of long nights, old mistakes, and broken promises, but his eyes still held something uncrushed, a quiet fire that refused to go out. He worked as a janitor at Halston University, a prestigious institution where marble staircases gleamed under the sun and the children of privilege walked with futures already written in gold. Marcus was invisible there, another man in uniform pushing his cart down polished hallways, collecting the messes of minds that never noticed him. But before the uniform, before the mop, before the name tag that said maintenance, there had been a boy who loved numbers more than anything in the world. Marcus had grown up in the shadow of abandoned factories and cracked sidewalks. His mother cleaned houses. His father vanished before he could remember his face. But his grandmother had given him two things that shaped his soul: an old arithmetic book and the belief that knowledge could lift any chain. He learned numbers by candlelight when the electricity failed. He solved equations for fun when other boys played ball. Teachers once called him the brightest kid in the district. Then life arrived. His grandmother passed. His mother became ill. Scholarships slipped away as hospital bills piled up. Dreams don't always shatter loudly. Sometimes they just fade quietly, until you wake up years later holding a mop instead of a diploma. Yet Marcus never stopped learning. Every night after work he studied. Old textbooks from thrift shops, online lectures on his phone, notes scribbled on napkins. While the world slept, he chased the future he had been promised. Halston University became his classroom. He listened through doors. He watched chalkboards when professors forgot to erase them. He copied problems into a small black notebook he carried in his pocket, solving them on his lunch breaks between sweeping corridors and emptying trash. No one knew, no one cared, until the day Professor Jonathan Calloway laughed. It happened in the largest lecture hall on campus, a massive stone amphitheater where Professor Calloway delivered his advanced mathematics course to 200 students. He was famous, respected, feared, brilliant but arrogant. His reputation came wrapped in awards and ego. That afternoon, Marcus was cleaning near the back entrance while the lecture was in session. The doors were open. The chalkboard was full of symbols that made his pulse quicken. A complex equation stretched across the board, something elegant and brutal, the kind of problem that made students sink into their chairs. Calloway paced. He spoke of genius and difficulty. He spoke of intellect as if it were a birthright. Then he smirked. He announced loudly that whoever could solve this equation on the spot deserved more than a grade, that such brilliance would deserve anything, even marriage. And he laughed, knowing none of the students could. The room grew silent. Students avoided his gaze. From the doorway, Marcus felt something stir in his chest. The equation was beautiful. He could see its structure, its symmetry, the solution unfolding in his mind like a sunrise. Without thinking, he stepped forward. Shoes scuffed, students turned. Laughter rippled when they noticed the janitor approaching the chalkboard. Marcus asked respectfully, "For the chalk?" The professor laughed harder. What happened next would echo across the campus for years. Marcus wrote. His hand moved steadily, not rushed, not trembling. Each step followed the last with perfect logic, each symbol flowing as if it had always been meant to live there. The solution formed in full, clean, undeniable truth. The room fell into a silence so complete it felt unreal. Professor Calloway froze. Students leaned forward, phones slipped from hands. One of the teaching assistants whispered something that sounded like disbelief. The equation was solved. Perfectly. The professor stared at the board, then at Marcus, then back again, his confidence draining from his face as though someone had opened a valve. Marcus quietly returned the chalk and picked up his mop. The laughter never came back. Word spread before the end of the hour. By sunset, half the campus was whispering about the janitor who humiliated the professor. By morning, the administration was calling Marcus into an office he had never been invited to before. They asked about his education, his past, his knowledge. They tested him with problems that made graduate students sweat. Marcus solved them all. Within weeks, the university offered him full sponsorship, tuition, housing, and a position as a research assistant. But success did not erase the years he had already lost, nor did it heal the scars life had carved into him. Studying again after 2 decades felt like trying to breathe after being underwater too long. Younger students stared. Professors doubted. Marcus worked twice as hard, slept half as much. He stumbled. He failed quiz. Zess. He fought shame when he didn't understand a concept immediately. But he never quit. And in the middle of that storm, he met Evelyn. She was a graduate student in theoretical physics, quiet, observant, kind. They met in the library at midnight while both were chasing the same impossible proof. She noticed his notebook filled with neat equations. He noticed the tired courage in her eyes. They started studying together. Coffee turned into conversations. Conversations into laughter. Laughter into something fragile and dangerous. Love doesn't announce itself. It grows in small moments. Shared silence, shared struggle, shared hope. Marcus told her his story, about his grandmother, about the mop, about the chalk. Evelyn listened without judgment. She didn't see a janitor. She saw a man who had never given up. The years passed. Marcus earned his degree, then his master's, then his doctorate. The same professor who once laughed now cited his research. Invitations arrived from institutions that once would not have let him through the door. One winter evening, Marcus stood outside the same lecture hall where everything had begun. Snow fell softly, the windows glowed warm with memory. He knelt in the cold and asked Evelyn to marry him. She said yes. Their wedding was small. Students and professors sat side by side. The president of the university gave a toast about destiny. Marcus's old mop sat quietly in the corner of their apartment afterward, a reminder of the man he had been and the life he had built. Years later, Marcus would become a professor himself. On the first day of every semester, he wrote a single equation on the board, the same one that had changed his life, and he told his students that genius does not belong to the loud, the rich, or the chosen, but to the persistent, the patient, and the unseen. And somewhere in the audience, there was always at least one student who finally believed in themselves. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that your past does not define your future, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to this channel. Your support helps stories like this reach the people who are waiting to hear them. Before the ending, please comment below what this story made you feel. Your words matter more than you know, because sometimes the world laughs at the janitor, and sometimes the janitor becomes the professor, and sometimes a single line of chalk can change a life forever.